let me bring into the program a new friend. Rob Crain is with an organization called Together We Can. Rob Crain, along with Reverend Richie Butler, have this organization called Together We Can. Rob, introduce yourself to the audience. Give me some background on what you did for a living, what you do for a living, how you pay the bills, and then tell me about Reverend Richie Butler and then your organization real quick.
You bet. Again, welcome. I'm glad to be here with you guys on this morning. It's a difficult time in America, but I think we're up to it. I'm a personal injury lawyer, of all things, up in Dallas, Texas, and work throughout the country, including in the Valley. And I've got involved with Pastor Richie Butler, who is senior minister at a very large, predominantly African-American church here in Dallas. He's African-American. I'm a middle-aged white guy that grew up in a predominantly white community. He likes to call us ebony and ivory, but we've been working together for 3.5 years now and bringing people together to have conversations about race. And following the murder of George Floyd, we put together We Can, which is really meant to be one of the answers to the question of, hey, I want change in America. How can I help make change in America? And so that's what spawned Together We Can, and folks can learn about Together We Can at togetherwecan.one, O-N-E.
Okay.
Like One Nation Under God.
Okay.
And that's, I can go into more detail with it, but that's
yeah,
who I
well,
am.
I'd love to hear some of the conversations that you've had in North Texas, the engagements you've had with, I guess, other churches or community groups or maybe even protesters. How has that come along?
Well, great question, and it's everybody. That's the wonderful thing about this, and you can learn more about the discussions. We call that Together We Dine, which is a component of our Together We Can program. So, again, you can learn about it at the website. You can see video of it. It is people from all walks of life who pre-pandemic would come together in a room, and we would break up into round tables of about 8 people. So we'd have tables throughout all these rooms, have a box lunch or dinner for folks, nothing fancy. And everybody would go around the table and answer questions, individual, unique questions about themselves, about race. And we provide the questions, and we provide facilitators who facilitate these answers. And it's not the answers that matter. It's listening to all of those around your table give their answers and what they are saying. And the idea is that if we listen long and hard enough to each other, we're going to learn that what unites us is greater than what divides us. And if I could elaborate on that point just for a moment in the context of what we're seeing with the police issues and so forth, we all want people who are pulled over by police to leave those stops safely, and we want those police officers to leave those stops safely. We've got different ideas about how to get to a point where that is a more universal truth, but we all want that goal. And if we'll listen to each other, we can learn that, you know what, we're on the same page here. We're just trying to get to the next page a little differently. And with that, we can unite a little bit better in our efforts.
In those conversations that you've had, oh, by the way, my guest is Rob Crain, along with Reverend Richie Butler. They have this organization called Together We Can up in North Texas. They've had conversations about the cases that we've seen in the news that have sparked protests. Folks in the black community engaging with police, and in the end, a black man, a black woman are dead. Something bad happened. And of course, I don't have to tell you about all the protests that we've seen. But in these conversations that you've seen, that you've had in North Texas, Rob, let's talk about some of the ingredients that go into all this. When you break out into small groups, do the issues of not only aggressive police behavior or deadly police behavior, not only does that get looked at, but how everything ramps up towards that, because individuals don't know, black individuals, specifically the ones that have a bad ending, they disobeyed police orders, or they resisted arrest, or became confrontational and ramped things up and became physically aggressive. Does any of that come up in the conversation in the small groups?
Everything comes up. And that's the beautiful thing about these discussions, is that it's all on the table. We're not trying to, suppress anybody's viewpoint or opinion. Now, we're not, we don't have fact checkers at every table, and that's not what we do. But we everything is available to be discussed, and there is fear when we start talking about unrest and we start talking about visual images of people getting hurt, and I'm talking about police officers getting hurt, in addition to those they're interacting with. Fear is the biggest thing we're dealing with. Fear is used and has been used in this country for political gain, for economic gain, and for our entire history. And we've all got to open our minds a bit to appreciating how fear is used in our country, in our discussion points. And there is fear. Fear is real. We need to be honest with each other about our fear. And those points that you bring up, every case has a factual distinction. And every case has got issues that are raised about what one person did, what the police officer did, and so forth. And no one of them are the exact same. They have some commonality between them. But all of those viewpoints are on the table and should be discussed, because when we Together We Can is a lot about looking on the inside first and then acting in the outside second.
And it's so unfortunate because we've seen over and over many of these protests and riots and violence. It is all initiated, it's all sparked before all the facts come in and everything is put on the table and say, oh, okay, so that's how it happened. Even in this case where Ms. Taylor, not all the facts have come in yet, and people, they have no idea why they're protesting. And I'm just concerned that this fear has blossomed into a culture of hate the police. Violence toward the police is justifiable in a lot of people's minds. Is there a point of return?
Well, I was reading Dr. Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail yesterday. It's a long letter. You can find an abridged, shortened version online and so forth. And we all need to read that letter again. He wrote that in 1963, I believe. And so many of the things happening then are happening now. Now, segregation that was then has been improved upon greatly in our country since then. But a lot of the same issues he was talking about in terms of responding in peaceful protests are the exact same issues we're dealing with today. And, we need more Dr. Kings. We wish we had hundreds of them.
Those words of wisdom, though, I'm afraid are falling on deaf ears. But, we need to repeat those words to this generation for them to understand how they need to comport themselves. It's a real pleasure speaking with you, Rob. I look forward to calling you again, and best to you in your effort there in North Texas, along with Pastor Richie Butler. Their website is togetherwecan.one, O-N-E, togetherwecan.one.